Well, good afternoon. This is Todd. This is the first installment of what I hope to be a series of video blogs. Recovery from the half house. Not the halfway house, the half house, because I live at a half address. So it's not a halfway house, it's a half house. I thought it was funny. Anyway. I gave my testimony last night and posted it online. I really enjoyed doing that. So I decided that I wanted to start a ongoing series of videos just giving my thoughts about different aspects of recovery and different topics that had to do with recovery and addiction and things of that nature. So this is the first in that series. They're not going to be long, they're not going to be in-depth, they're not going to be groundbreaking or earth-shattering, just my thoughts, a little bit of verbal diarrhea for you. Hopefully you get something out of it. Hopefully I get something out of doing it. So anyway, I figure what's the best place to start but with the first step. It's the best place to start anywhere when it comes to recovery. So what is the first step? Well, anybody who's had anything to do with recovery knows the first step is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and or drugs or whatever your addiction may be, and that our lives have become completely unmanageable. So what is it? What is the first step? It's an invitation to change. It's an invitation for you to completely change your life. What is the principle behind the first step? What is the value, the virtue that has to do with the first step? It's honesty. That is the only must in whatever program you subscribe to, whether it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Double Trouble in Recovery, Overcomers Outreach, Celebrate Recovery, whatever, Smart Recovery, whatever program you subscribe to, the only must in any of those programs is you must be honest. And that's the only must in any of those programs. Everything else is just a suggestion for recovery. The only must is you must be honest. And that's what this step is about. It's being honest. It's admitting to yourself, above anybody else, that your life has become completely unmanageable because of your addiction. And that's taking a step before that, is admitting that you even have an addiction. That you have become completely powerless because of your addiction to drugs, alcohol, fill in the blank. Sorry about that. I get interrupted by the neighbors and lost my train of thought. I think what I was saying, though, is the most important thing is that for the first step, you have to admit that you're powerless over this, whatever this addiction is that's consuming your life, and that it's made your life unmanageable. That's the long and short of it. Right now, I'm powerless over these gnats that are swarming all around me. But anyway, life in Georgia. But as it says in the 12 and 12, our admission of personal powerlessness finally turned out to be the firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. That's what we want, happy and purposeful lives, because the lives that we're living in addiction are anything but happy and purposeful. The only purpose in our lives is to feed our addiction, and that's not a happy life whatsoever. We want to rebuild happy and purposeful lives. You cannot build that on a life of addiction. That's not a foundation whatsoever. So you have to find a new foundation to build your life upon. And that's where this step comes in. And the great thing about the 12 steps, and this is one of my favorite quotes from, what's his name? The comedian. Russell Brand. From his recovery book. No two people use the 12 steps in the same way. Written into them are multiple clauses that allow for limitless, diverse individuality. You don't have to do the 12 steps the same way. Every single person does them a completely different way. And the great thing about the first step is, you don't have to hit rock bottom to do the first step. Why all this insistence that every AA, from the 12 and 12 again, must hit bottom first? Well, the answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they've hit rock bottom. If you go back a page, it was obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had hit to the point where it would hit them. The whole purpose of this program is to bring the bottom up for people so they didn't have to hit bottom. Give them something to reach for, give them a way out so they didn't have to hit bottom before they started to reach for help. And that's the beauty of this program. It gives them an out. So, how do you work the first step? What do you do to reach the first step? Well, if you're watching this, you're doing something because you're looking out for something to do in your recovery. One of the easiest things to do the first step is to go to a meeting. That's doing something right there to reach the first step, because you're, at least in some way, shape, or form, admitting you have a problem. Because nobody goes and sits in an AA meeting just for shits and giggles. Excuse my language. Nobody goes to an AA meeting just for a cup of coffee. They go there to find out something. They think they have a problem and they want to know more about it. They want to find out more about the whole program. Nobody goes to an NA meeting, just because they got nothing better to do on a Friday night. But when you go to that meeting, introduce yourself. Stand up and say, my name is Todd. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. Share some of your struggle. Talk to somebody else at that meeting. Admit to another person for once in your life that you have a problem, that there's an issue that needs to be dealt with, that needs to be addressed. And that's taking the first step right there. What else can you do? If you feel like you want to drink or you want to use, reach out to somebody. Go to those meetings, get a contact sheet, get a phone list, and use it. Do something about it. Don't just reach for that bottle. Don't reach for those drugs. Don't reach in that fridge. Don't make that 2 o'clock booty call. Call somebody on that call list and get some help. Say, I want to use. And see what they have to say. I can guarantee it's going to be better than what you wanted to do. Get a sponsor. That's a huge thing. That's a huge part of the first step. Get a sponsor. Somebody to hold you accountable. Somebody to introduce you and walk you through the program. Walk you through the steps. Show you how to do them correctly. If you don't want to get a sponsor, get a counselor. Get a therapist. If you have insurance, which most people do, I think it's kind of like law now, your insurance will probably cover it. Talk to them. Talk to your counselor. Talk to your therapist. And, tell them you think you have a problem. And discuss it with them. The most important thing is, if you drink, don't hide it. Tell somebody. Hold yourself accountable. It's not the end of the world. Relapse, contrary to popular belief, is not a part of recovery, but it is an aspect of recovery. But it's also not the end of the world. You don't lose everything you've gained in recovery just because you went out and used again. You don't lose all the knowledge you've gained. You don't lose all the wisdom. You don't lose all the friends. You may lose a couple, but you don't lose everything you've gained in recovery just because you went out and used again. The only thing you lose is your sobriety date rolls over. That's it. So basically the first step is very easy to do. I did the first step before I even knew about how to do the 12 steps. I did it in the park and ride 95 in Aberdeen, Maryland, sitting on the phone with a counselor for Turning Point Rehab Facility. I sit in tears, admitting I was powerless over drugs and alcohol, and that my life was completely unmanageable and I needed help, and begging them to get me into a rehab facility. You can do it anywhere. But the most important thing is that this step is not something you do just once. This is a step that needs to be done every single day. Every morning when you wake up, you need to realize that you are powerless over your addictions, and they make your life unmanageable. You can't control them. There's nothing you can do to tame them. You are powerless over them. And you need help. So, that's it for me right now. I'm going to sign off. Maybe I'll try this again tomorrow with a different topic. Maybe it'll be step 2. I like step 2. We'll see. But hopefully this made sense. But that's all for now. Bye.